Ooh, that's...
Mm.
I think... Oh, man, that's so good.
Oh, not that I'm curious, but, I know these things.
Sure.
These people out here watching may not know. What's so hard about modeling? You just look pretty and stand there. How hard is that, all right?
Topic of pretty privilege, right? There's benefits to it, but there's also things that are challenges as a result of it. And I feel like I've often...
For the ugly people, what are those challenges? they just curious.
Not the ugly people.
Welcome back to the Content Bebop. And on today's edition of the Creator Highlight, I'm here with, do you prefer Nikki or Nicole?
Nicole is fine.
Nicole's fine. Okay, Nicole. So
I go by both, but...
Oh, okay. They both sound cool. What do you identify yourself as? A content creator, a filmmaker, producer, model, actress?
A Jill of all trades, right?
Yep. To say the least. Yeah.
I would call myself an artist.
Huh. Okay.
Yes, I would call myself an artist because
dang.
I think it depends on the project what role you'll find me in.
It's a cop-out answer. I did not cop out, but that's a cheat answer. I wasn't expecting that. Dang. All right. Which one do you enjoy the most? Acting, the producing, the singing? Which one? Goodness gracious. What don't you do? All right.
I think that I will always gravitate to being a creative first. Mm-hmm. So my point of reference is always going to come from being an actor and a singer, because that's what I grew up as. That's what my education is in. But ultimately, like, my passion comes from collaboration. So I don't necessarily need to be in front of the camera for every project. I want to see what is going to make a project work. And so I want to see that project through. And yeah.
You mentioned that the other day that you like the collaboration. You're a collaborator.
Yeah.
I've never really considered that even being I guess I'm not, I don't know. Like, is that, so you just like working with the other people? You like working with people in the collaborations, putting the different aspects of it all together and seeing a final project. That's interesting. I'm going to be honest. I'm a filmmaker. I'm in this industry, and I never really considered the collaboration effort of it, even though it is like one of the last art forms where you have to work together as a team to create something. Not too many of those exist. But that's interesting to me. I know it sounds crazy, but I guess I'm so technical that I'll be in my head.
Yeah.
And I'm not worried about it. Everybody else. So it's like, you enjoy these people? They get in my way. I'm trying to set the camera, But all right. Which one's harder for you, modeling or producing? Like,
that's such a difficult question. I think they're challenging for different reasons. I think with modeling, it's all you. Everyone's watching you. You're selling whatever you're selling, whether it's you as the product or you're working with different tangible things, whether it be clothes or, this water bottle per se. So I think from that standpoint, it's difficult in a sense of just like, how do I exude personality? How do I make this thing come to life? Mm-hmm. And then from a producing standpoint, I would say the challenging thing is, coming from a place of a hive mind kind of mentality, being the person that's going to push a project forward and how to almost be 10 steps ahead of everybody that is working with you and have to be able to know the answer to the question before they ask it. And so just being of the mind that I have it together, Mm-hmm. And when I don't have it together, I'm going to figure it out. And in that sense, I've always come from a place of the producer's job is to find a way to say yes. So
I understand that. Yeah, I hear you. That's a good way of wording it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, not that I'm curious, but I know these things.
Sure.
These people out here watching may not know. What's so hard about modeling? You just look pretty and stand there. How hard is that? All right.
I wish
right?
it was just that.
It's not?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, I would say with modeling, it's one of those things where you're trying to find a way to exude your own personality while also, maintaining the integrity of whatever the work is. I'm not a runway model. I'm 5'2" on a good day with good shoes on, okay? a lot of the work that I do is lifestyle based. Sometimes it's editorial. So it's really just you and the camera, right? It's really you and that photographer. It's really you and that product. And just really trying to find a way to say, this is what works. This is what we consider to be beauty, or, you know, whatever it is you're trying to sell. And so I think the challenge in that is just maintaining that integrity through the work and making sure that it's consistent. So, you know, in modeling, you're practicing your poses, you're practicing your facial expressions, and that it's almost like going to the gym, you know, that's the challenge. It's like showing up to set and being ready when they say, all right, let's shoot. And so a lot of that work becomes the challenge because it's about that consistency. So when you do that shoot, that consistency shows through every time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And I say this with all due respect,
Sure.
but you lost your mother.
I did.
Like I think it was 4 years or so ago.
Actually, this year will be the 10th anniversary.
Oh my God, I'm way off. Okay, 10 years.
No.
But how did and I know it still hurts. I lost my mother last year as well.
Yeah.
It's tough. But in your case, she was your anchor. You said professionally, and obviously your mother. How does that work going forward? Does that make you want to push harder in modeling, or does it make you kind of want to take a break, take some time off from modeling? How did that affect things?
You know, when it initially happened, I definitely wanted to push harder. I think from a grief standpoint, I was in a space where I was wanting to distract. You know, I hadn't really fully come to terms with it. I hadn't accepted it. And
Have you now?
I think I have. You know, it comes in waves. Grief.
Oh, trust me, I know.
Yeah, it comes in waves. It's one of those things where you'll be good one day, and then the next day you're just like, it hits you out of nowhere. You smell something, or you hear something, or you see something, and you're just like, it takes you right back to that place. You know, with it, when it initially happened, I was just in a space of, I need to keep working. I want to maintain the lifestyle that I have. I want to pursue my goals, and I don't want, you know, this quote unquote incident of sorts to deter me in that way. And unfortunately, it's a toxic way to go about things from my personal experience. But that, you know, that kind of fueled a lot of growth in me over the years. So from there, you know, with my mom as my anchor, she was also in the industry. So I grew up in child modeling, actually, because my mom was a runway model. I didn't get the height, though, because she was 5'9".
She was tall. I saw it on Facebook, saw a picture.
Yeah.
She was tall, yeah.
So I didn't get the height, but yeah, she definitely threw me into child modeling. So I would go to shoots with her. I did, you know, movies growing up when I was a kid. I did a little bit of everything. And then we moved out of New York, and I was like, Mommy, Daddy, I want to be a singer. I want to be an actor. And they were like, why did you tell us a year before? But, you know, I think with grief and, you know, with that support from her and my father, like my family, I've never had to worry about, you know, their support in any way when it comes to the things that I'm driven to do. So I think, you know, just having that loss, it pushed me to want to continue that, because I knew I had her support, you know, when she was physically here. And I know that she's still with me in a way. So yeah, it definitely makes me want to continue her legacy in the way that I want to, you know, pursue my goals. And yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess my next question is, are you, and so modeling, is it something you truly enjoy doing, or do you think maybe you've done it just because you were kind of grown up in that world?
I mean, I wouldn't specifically say that I'm a model.
No, okay.
I wouldn't consider myself a model. I think there's a lot of people who do it full time. I do it part time. It's one of my, you know, creative avenues that I like to, you know, maintain. I would definitely consider myself more of an actor, singer first, and a producer than a model. But yeah, I definitely enjoy it. I definitely want to continue to pursue it long term. And I enjoy it. So, but I don't think it was my first passion. I think that was my mom's passion, but
Right.
it was a part of the creative process, and I really loved being able to be playful in that way. So it's never something that I would, steer clear of in any way. I think if it's the right project and, it calls for me and I call for it, then I'm always going to pursue that in some capacity.
I understand.
Yeah.
In 10 years, you see yourself doing more producing or more acting?
I think it's one of those things where it depends on the project. I wouldn't say that I would gravitate towards one over the other. We talked a little bit about the collaboration piece of it. When I got into the entertainment industry, I was like, oh my gosh, I love how beautiful this can be. I love that, there's so many different art forms, and specifically, especially film related, or I have a theater background. So I think about how all of these little tiny pieces come together to make this grandiose picture, whatever it ends up being, right? So for me, I think it's very much project based. If the project requires a producer and I think that I'm the right fit for it, then I would pursue that. If the project requires an actor and, I fit that role, then I would pursue that. I also think it comes down to timing as well and a little bit of luck. There's a lot that goes into these types of things. So I don't want to limit myself to saying, I'm solely going to focus on producing. I'm solely going to be focusing on pursuing projects and the needs that are required of them.
Oh my goodness, you keep giving me these. I understand. Okay, let's try. If you had to pick one, would you okay, I'm trying to figure out a way to ask it so you can't get out of it. Okay.
I would rather pick being a creative.
Oh my goodness.
So I love singing and acting. Anytime.
Singing and acting. Okay.
Singing and acting.
All
Anytime that I get to act, anytime I get to write a song and sing and just be myself in that way or bring a character to life, that's always going to be my first point of reference. So that's where I would go.
Singing and acting. Okay. Interesting. Okay, that's the okay, all right. So you sing. That's what's up right there. Let's hear a little bit.
Ooh. I think I'm okay for right now.
Oh, yeah.
You just put me on the spot like that. I don't
know.
I'm
You're
like,
single. I thought.
How's my mic doing? It's like,
Rolling, but all right. Okay. So what do you look for in a project? How about that? What do you look for in a project before you say, because I want to find a direction. So as an actress, you find a project, are you concerned about the director at all? Is that something you even consider? Or do you read the script first, or just, hey, I'm just here to do it, I just love doing it, or how's that process go before taking on the project?
I think it depends a little bit. I think I have very specific things that I always look for, but I also think it depends on, the type of project it is. Like, is this going to be on a network, or is it going to be more indie and we're going to be, shooting this as a proof of concept? There's so many different variables. I think I always gravitate towards, is this a good story? Can I resonate with this? Can I connect with this on a personal level? Is this something that I would enjoy? Because I always want to come from a standpoint of, this is something that I have a personal reference to, and I would want to show my friends and family. I would be proud of this.
I respect that.
Yeah.
I hear you.
I think it's important because, you don't want to sell yourself short or, not come from a place of integrity when it comes to the work that you do. I think that's always important, and staying true to yourself, because, that's not the case for a lot of people.
No, it is not.
Yeah. And I've never wanted to be somebody who subscribes to anything other than that. So I think that's what I always look for. And then from there, you usually tend to have a sense of what you're going to get just based off of that, because, it's an energy thing. So who am I going to be working with? What is their process? Do we align in that way? When it comes to the director, what kind of director are you? Is this a collaborative process? Do you want to, work with me one-on-one? Is this hands-on for you? Or do you want me to come ready and I have my interpretation of the script? Those sorts of things. And then also, your fellow actors, your fellow crew members, like what's their process, Like you said, you're focused on the camera, that's your thing. Like that's where, that's your point of reference. That's your bread and butter. That's where you like to work, I like to see who I'm working with just to, have an idea of how we're going to make this come together, like knowing that about you, I would be like, all right, then I need to know where my angles are, like I need to know my blocking. I need to make his life as simple and easy as possible. That would be my approach, because I want to make your job easy so you can make my job easy. You know what I mean? So, those are the types of things I gravitate towards. Like I have a very technical background when it comes to, my process. And with that theater background as well, it's one of those things where you are always a part of something bigger than yourself. You are a cog in the wheel, in a sense. So you never want to make it all about you, and you need to have that perspective of we're all here working towards the same goal. And so that I feel like should always drive when it comes to the projects that you pick and, the work that you do personally. And so that's always been what resonates with me.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Have you found a difference between working with male or female directors or just collaborators in general? Like, have you noticed a difference? Let's say directors, I guess.
Sure. I think generally from a technical standpoint and just from the role of a director, it tends to be a pretty straightforward process. But I think there's nuance when it comes to people's personalities and their level of experience and just who they are as a person. So I think in my experience with male directors, they usually always want me to look the part. Like that's kind of their process. They have a vision in mind. They're sticking to that vision. You are there to show up and complete that in every sense of the word, right? When it comes to working with, women directors, I think it becomes a little bit more of a collaborative process. I think it also depends, on the role and on the script as well. So, yeah, I think, thankfully I've had really great experiences with really great directors, and
no bad stories.
No, for the most part.
There's always something, right? But yeah, if you do anything long enough, it's always something. Yeah,
you can always find something, but I like to focus on the good.
Same. I don't even notice the bad sometimes. I'm just focused on the good stuff.
Keep it moving. You know who you are. I'm a professional.
Yep. Exactly. All right. So what's your secret to keeping good people around you? Like I noticed we were talking before we started it. Your friend, and I can't remember her name, but unfortunately, I met her on the Knee Touch. And she just they seem like they seem like you were a good friend, because she kind of approached me. She was like, "How Nicole?" It was kind of like I felt like we was on the street. She asked, and it wasn't like on a set. I was like, I met her once a couple times. I don't know. But she seemed like a good friend, and I'm looking at what you post online. It seems like you keep good people around you. Is that on purpose? Is that intentional?
Absolutely.
How important is that to you, to keep the people around?
Very important. I think when it comes to having good people in your life, and in my experience, that's my center of gravity. I like we were talking about, I lost my mom really young, and with that happening at such a formative time in my life, I constantly have had to and continue to ask myself the question, what kind of woman do you want to be? What does that look like? And how do you get there? What are the tangible actions that you need to take to be the best possible version of yourself? And in order to do that, you need to build community. And I think it comes down to, when you're saying it's a curious thing to really love collaboration, but for me, it's about community in all of these ways.
I'm learning.
Yeah. So, I've always come from a standpoint of try your best to never give up. That's something that I was raised on. My mom would, reiterate that to me and my brother constantly. Try your best. At the end of the day, you come home and you can look yourself in the mirror and say that you did. That's all I can ever ask of you. Just come home, right? Cool. And then on top of that, it's how do I want to be treated? You know, I've always prioritized that just because, you know, of my relationship with my family and how close-knit we are and how much that love comes through. It's like, I want to be somebody that anybody, whether I meet you for 5 seconds or I know you for a lifetime, you feel that connection. And so, you know, I want genuine reciprocal relationships for that reason, because that's how you build community, when people feel connected to you and you feel connected to them. And, you know, through that, it's always about, if I'm my most solid self, then I will exude that energy, and that energy will, you know, I'll be attracted to that from both angles. And so I will just naturally find those people, and through that, I can be intentional about building upon those relationships. So, with the example of Lisa, I love Lisa. She's amazing.
She was great.
Yeah, she's a fantastic person, great actor. She's a fantastic, talented celloist as well.
Oh,
yes,
know that.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, she's a celloist and a pianist as well.
Oh, interesting.
So she is a well-rounded individual, and I met her through a mutual friend who's one of my best friends, and yeah, like we just got to talking, you know, originally about music, and then it spanned the test of time for our relationship. We've known each other about 3 years now. Oh, wow. And she got into acting fairly recently, but she's been killing it. Super proud of her. And I love to have people that, you know, make me better, like motivate me. Yes, and also have interests that, you know, we can talk about things that we enjoy. You know, maybe I don't have a point of reference for that, but seeing that you're so attached to that and connected to that makes it interesting for me too. So I think that's something I really love about that relationship. And yeah, I like to find relationships similar in that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happened to eating sandwiches?
What happened to eating sandwiches?
What happened to it?
We're going to revamp.
Oh, okay.
It's not gone.
Oh, it's not gone. Okay.
No, it's not gone. So originally Eating Sandwiches was a collaborative group of filmmakers from different areas of film. So we had your DPs, and you had your producers and your directors and so on and so forth. And I was acting as EP at the time, managing all of those people. Yes, very interesting, and also a lot of work.
I'm sure it is.
Yes. And ultimately, the rubber meets the road at some point, and I realized I wanted to have more of a part in the creative process of things.
Uh-oh.
And so I just did a full revamp. Like right now, Eating Sandwiches, I'm working on actually a talk show. I'm also working on a pilot script with my writing team and focusing more on the creative process in those sense. So yeah, it hasn't gone anywhere.
It's not gone?
No, it's not gone.
I hear you.
It's always ever present. And also I do my producing work through Eating Sandwiches. So if you ever hire me, you're hiring Eating Sandwiches.
Okay.
So yes, it is still ever present. We've just changed up our style a little bit, but we'll be back shortly for the audience to be a part of that.
How soon?
How soon?
Will you be back?
Well, stay tuned.
All right. Okay. So about 5 years ago or so, I noticed on your Instagram page you started posting more. Not more, but you stepped up the post. So let's say that. It's just like, you started, I don't know what you would call it, but it's not just pictures now. Now it seems like there's a little mini story to every post or so. So what sparked that? Why do you do that now?
It's funny.
Sounds tiring.
Goodness. It's tiring.
Goodness.
I was just talking to my friend about this the other day. With social media and just the various forms of communication that we have at our fingertips that are readily accessible to us, I always find it so interesting how we still feel, in a sense, disconnected from each other.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
Yes. So
Very ironic. Yes.
it is ironic, right? So, it's one of those things where I would call myself a micro influencer on a very basic level, in the sense that I have a certain number of people following me, right? It's not astronomical in any way. It's not noteworthy in any way. But for me, it goes back to that community aspect. On this corner of the internet, where I happen to be, if you come across my page, I want you to find authenticity and genuineness present. And so I don't want to get on social media and just post a picture of me smiling, and that's not how I'm feeling in that moment. I feel like that's inauthentic to myself. I feel like I'm contributing to the disconnection when these platforms were created to connect us. And so I started posting more, and also being more intentional about that posting and what I'm actually talking about, just for that simple reason. I wanted to see more content like that. And, sometimes you need to be the thing that you want.
True.
So that's where that comes from. It wasn't just about, ooh, let me take this pretty picture. I think you can be strategic about it. And it's like, if people are looking at my page for whatever their reason is, I can also get you to think about something as well. And so I'm going to talk about it. And, I'm also just going to be me at the same time. So I tend to be very cerebral and neurotic in that way. So I have thoughts that are constantly on my mind. So let's have a conversation. I've never been somebody who is really good at small talk. I hate it. Honestly, I avoid it at all.
Oh, really?
I do. So,
I was trying before we started. I was like, dang, you're giving me a lot of it.
I'm sorry.
I was like, so how your day been?
Yeah, I knew
I
it.
was like, oh.
I'm not really that kind of person, but if you ask me something that's topical, I'm always going to meet you right there. Because for me, that's where the connection is. That's of interest to me, because that's real. And so with social media being not a real place, but we place that importance on it, let's bring some realness. Let's bring that authenticity to it. So that would be why I do the things that I do. I say the things that I say, and, am consistent in that way, and like you said, it can be exhausting too. So when I want to take a break, I take a break. I, for the longest time, was having, I was having difficulty with the authenticity of it, that piece of it, and always feeling like I need to post because that's what the algorithm is telling me I need to do. And if I don't do that, then I'm not maintaining what I need to be maintaining, and so on and so forth. And, when you think about it from that standpoint, it's absolutely exhausting. And so I needed to take a step back. I needed to remember my why, and I needed to also regroup and readjust and make it work for me, because if not, I wasn't going to show up properly. And I wasn't, I had people in my DMs like, oh, you haven't posted in a while, I haven't heard from you, are you okay? And when which is so silly, but at the same time I get it. When people are used to seeing you and you're getting those messages, it's like, well, I definitely need to be intentional about this. I definitely really need to rethink this, and I need to regroup and approach this from a different angle. And so, I think that's, in doing that's what brought the joy back for me, and, allowed me to just be myself and know that I'm fully capable of being in this space.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Very interesting. How do you handle negative feedback? Like, do you get negative stuff? Well, I'm sure you do. It's social media. So how do you handle the negative comments, the negative people, the a-holes and whatnot?
The naysayers, the people, the keyboard warriors.
Keyboard warriors. Yes.
I would say I always handle it. Well, I take it with a grain of salt. If it's coming from a place that is constructive, absolutely, I will take it every time. I have always approached disconnection and any kind of challenge, and I would say conflict, in a sense, confrontation as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay. You can see it from a negative viewpoint, or you can see this as an opportunity to connect, to find whatever is missing through that. And the only way you can do that is by being open. So anytime, I get, negative feedback, or, somebody says something I disagree with, I try to have a conversation about it. I'm always somebody
that work?
Not always.
Okay, I didn't think so.
I don't think it always works, but, that's my way. You know what I mean?
I understand. No, I definitely understand.
And I'm also of the mindset that I don't want to put that into the world. If that's the energy you're bringing to me, I'm not going to meet you there. Let's elevate this experience. Let's elevate this conversation if we're going to have a conversation, or leave it where it is. You know what I mean? It really depends on, it takes two to tango. So it really depends on the other person as well. But yes, like I always try to be open-minded, and I would say that I like to address things. I'm a fairly direct person. So while I don't enjoy conflict or things of that nature, I do welcome it. I welcome it with open arms, because what's the alternative here? What's the alternative? You have to think in those terms as well. It's just like, well, we can continue to perpetuate the same issue, or we can resolve it. And the only way you get there is how you get there, by addressing the issue.
Right, of course.
So,
yeah.
But, in another sense of that, like the keyboard warriors and the people who just have things to say just because they're in a negative headspace, and, the internet it allows you to perpetuate that. I just keep it moving. It's almost like it doesn't really exist in my world. Like, I see it, but whatever. Like, you can acknowledge something, you can entertain a thought without adopting it. So
true.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't do that, but yeah, you're right though. It is possible to do.
Intentionality is everything. Discernment is everything. So yeah, that's how I do it. If it doesn't pay me, if it doesn't support me in any way, I'm just like, all right, you got it. Do your thing. I'm gonna be over here. You're gonna be over there, and we live to live another day.
Do they get to you? Do they still get to you?
I feel like I'm a fairly confident person. That hasn't always been the case. I think you grow in the time that you grow.
Of course.
But I would say that for the most part, I'm mostly impacted only by my immediate circle. Like,
hey, I feel the same. I understand.
Yeah, like people who aren't a part of that,
noise.
It's noise. It doesn't penetrate me the same way. Like, it's like, all right, that's fine. Now, if somebody that's close to me had something to say,
right,
absolutely, I'm going to take that to heart, because like, you mean something to me. Like, right, this relationship means something to me, and that feedback as a result means something to me. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, I try. If I worried about every little thing that I saw, heard, whatever it may be, I would be doing such a disservice to myself.
You would,
and I would not be happy. And, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I do, because this is a tough industry.
Yes, it is.
You have to have somewhat of a thick skin, and you have to be able to roll with the punches. Like, 120% of the time you're getting rejected. So like, you know what I mean?
I do know.
Yeah. Like, it's one of those things where you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable at all times. And if you live in that space, then you will be okay. And I feel like that's why I'm okay. Yeah.
Okay. I hear you. All right. This next question. So you're a beautiful woman. But, and I say that because a lot of people, I think, when they see a person, we live in a world, there's a little surface level in this world, you know what I mean? They see a pretty person or attractive person, and they just think that person has it all going on. What could they be worried about? And I asked that to lead to this question, because in a lot of your posts,
sure,
and even in some of the interviews that I was reading them from you, but specifically Instagram posts, it speaks on a lot of insecurities. Do you still have a lot of these insecurities and things? I mean, I mean, it sounds simple, but you're human,
Yeah.
So how do you handle these insecurities? Or what are these insecurities? Are you able to speak on them, or is it something you're still working through? Trying to figure out.
I would say, like you said, I am a human being first.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm everything to everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Nicole first. And then I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. Maybe at some point I'm someone's girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
I am someone's work colleague. I am a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, I'm still me first. And so, going off of that, as well as, you saying you're a beautiful woman, there is a level of objectivity within that.
There is, right, yeah.
And so I think ultimately that's where the insecurity lies, ironically enough.
Yeah.
So I think of, stemming from this topic, the topic of pretty privilege, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's benefits to it, but there's also things that are challenges as a result of it. And I feel like I've also...
For the ugly people, what are those challenges? they just curious.
Not the ugly people. No one is ugly.
All right. Yeah, well, if you say so. They're pretty privileged talking over there. Some ugly folks out there.
It's subjective.
It's subjective.
I am not everybody's cup of tea, and I know that.
I'm sure, but some folks ain't nobody's cup. So anyway, everybody's pretty. But what pretty privileges exist out there?
I think, and I can't speak for everyone. I can only speak from my personal experience. But like I was saying, objectivity. I often find myself in spaces where people like the idea of me, but not me.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, what does that mean?
So people tend to have a certain idea of who I am in their head, and how that relates to what I'm supposed to do for them, or how their adjacency to me benefits them in some way without getting to know the person. If you go on my profile on Instagram, because you're saying from my posts, and you just look at the picture,
right? Of course, yeah.
Then it is what it is, right? It looks how it looks. It's a very manicured. It's very curated in a sense, by design. I mean, I do have a brand to keep up with, and also like for my work, I use social media. But it goes back to my point of why I'm talking about the things that I'm talking about. It's not always necessarily coming from a place of insecurity, but it is always coming from a place of I'm a human being first. Right. And so, yes, you may see this beautiful picture of me, or this whatever it may be that you gravitate towards, but there's also a person behind this. There's a person behind the picture. There's a person behind the work that I do. And so I think playing within that space and finding that balance is the challenge of pretty privilege.
There's a balance. Yeah.
I acknowledge that I exercise a form of privilege. I exercise several forms of privilege.
Oh, what are the other ones?
I'm a woman in the world. I tend to lean on the side of racially ambiguous. I'm educated. There's so many things that I know that I exercise privilege from that place, Yeah. And so I also am very cognizant of that in what I do and in who I am. And so, when you think about it from that standpoint, I always try to keep that perspective.
Yeah.
I always try to come from a place of like, okay, how can I use this to my advantage, but also maintain my integrity of still being me, And I think there's privilege in that, just for the sake of, like you said, I may not, like I said, I may not be somebody's cup of tea, but, in the world, some people aren't anyone's cup of tea. And, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I get what you're saying.
Wow, but you get it. Oh, okay. All right.
That falls, within that. I also think there's challenges and pretty privilege in just working in this industry. There is no HR department. in the entertainment industry. Unless
Sure late.
there is no HR department, unless you're working at a corporate company. And even within that, HR doesn't always protect you. It's not created for the individual. It is created for the company, for anybody who doesn't know.
Yes.
And so you are constantly having to navigate. Again, I always come from a place of what kind of woman do I want to be? But you're always having to constantly navigate that, you know, going off of the objectivity piece of it, going off of, you know, the actual specifics of the work that I do. If I'm modeling, if I'm acting or singing, if I'm producing, there's a level of disconnect being a woman. And then also not only being a woman, but being a woman that other people are attracted to. And, you know, sometimes I really hate it for that reason. It's like, you're not seeing me for the entirety of who I am and all that I am and what I bring to the table.
That's not funny. I understand, but I guess with the alternative, would you rather have the alternative, I guess, if you had to choose? Like, would you rather keep your pretty privilege or, I guess the opposite of whatever pretty privilege is? Low privilege.
I always look at life from the perspective of the glass is always full. Not half full.
Always full.
Always full.
All right.
Always full. I have what I need. I'm whole. I have everything that I already need. And I'm always just adding to that, you know, and I like to look at life that way. I don't have a point of reference for not having it. I think certain things would be easier within that space.
Like what?
Well, if somebody wasn't, if somebody's disposition wasn't, oh my gosh, she's attractive, then they have to look at everything else because that's not on their mind, right? So from that standpoint, that would be easier. That would always be easier. But also, I love being myself. I love being me. I'm proud of the work that I've done on myself. I'm proud of the work that I do, the relationships I've cultivated. I'm proud of the person that I'm becoming and will always be becoming. So I will always pick being me over anything else. So, I mean, that's my answer. Like,
oh no, I feel you. I love my pretty privilege too. I feel you. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm keeping mine. You do what you want with yours, but I'm keeping mine. Have you any stories of you taking advantage of it? I guess your privilege. I guess, like negatively.
I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say that I would take advantage of anything or anybody. That's just not in my personality.
Well, you're a good person.
I don't again, I like good karma. I like to treat people with respect at all times. Even if you don't treat me with respect, like, I'm always going to be a solid person because that's who I am. And that's not at all determined by anybody else or any other external thing. So no, I would say that I never tried to take advantage of things. Now, will I position myself and act accordingly to what I need to do in order to get an end result? Sure, because that's literally anything that you would have to do.
Okay, okay, sure, right.
Yeah,
I got you.
Literally anything. Like, you're going to set yourself up for success, and you're going to work within, you know, the means of what you have available to you, what resources, you know, and also your expertise. And so, if I have to lean on something, I'm going to lean.
I understand. You're human. Yeah. We mentioned that earlier. That's what people do. All right. So, time capsule. In 10 years from now, where do you see yourself? What's going on in your life 10 years from now?
10 years from now, I would say on a personal level, I would be owning property in Puerto Rico and Panama.
Interesting.
I'm Puerto Rican Panamanian.
Yes.
So,
okay. Is that the only reason why, or is it cheap out there? We need to be out there buying.
It's cheaper than America.
Oh, is it? Is it worth having though? Like, I'm always worried about it. Are you able to keep an eye on your property? No, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard enough because I own a rental property. And it's hard enough. Like, what's going on over there? And it's down the street. In another country. Like, are you like, hey, is the house even there? Like, how do you collect the rent? Is somebody managing it? Is that a concern, or have you explored it at all?
I have explored it. I mean, ultimately, I want to have property in both places because, you know, I want to own a piece of my culture before it's taken up by everybody because people are flocking to those places because they are cheap and it's fantastic weather, food, people, the whole nine, the culture. And also being closer to family and being closer to my culture. I just feel like that's something that I want to connect with. Now from, a business standpoint, I would definitely be visiting often. Like ideally, I would want to get to a point where I'm spending 6 months out of the year living in Panama and 6 months out of the year living in Puerto Rico. So how
are you financially supporting yourself?
I would rent
6 months.
I would absolutely rent them out.
Okay.
I would probably go through a management company because I'm always about hands off if I can be. Like I
what? No, I feel you. It's a headache.
Yeah, like time is money. And so if I can pay somebody to do something more efficiently than I know I'm not capable of, then by all means, take a percentage, take your cut. We can both live our lives and be happy.
Hey, I feel you.
So, I think I would go that route. But of course, within that, I'm also always about learning and knowing things before I jump into them. So I would probably take some time to learn that process before I hand it over to somebody. One, just I think from a business standpoint, it's smart because, people see you coming if you don't know what you don't know.
Yes, they do.
So I think I would do it for that reason, but also just I think it's important if you're going to take something on, then you need to have some point of reference. You may not be an expert, but you should at least give it your best grade A effort to know a little bit about what that looks like and where it can potentially go. So from a personal standpoint, that is where I see myself in 10 years.
Nice.
Traveling the world within that. I love to travel. I hope to have a family, like maybe me married. And travel with my family and just be really happy and enjoy myself and pursue the creative projects that are my passion and my own thing that I want to be doing at that moment. I don't know what that is yet because it's not 10 years, but I hope that I'm doing all the things that bring me joy and, living in my truth within that. From a professional standpoint, I think I want to make sure that eating sandwiches is self-sustaining in whatever way, whatever that looks like at the time. I think you're not locked into just doing one thing per se. And I think you're able to evolve as a person and your business evolves with you. And so whatever that looks like for me at the time, that's what I want to be doing. If it's pursuing documentaries, then maybe I'll pursue documentaries. If it's pursuing more short form content, then I just want to make sure that in 10 years, I have positioned myself in such a way that I can pursue the things that I'm passionate about and enjoy doing it and have a means to do that. So, yeah.
I hear you. Okay. All right. What advice would you give an aspiring young Afro-Latina woman that wants to become a model or actress coming up? What advice would you give this person?
I would say always stay true to yourself. And I would say always try your best and don't give up. This industry is not linear, and that's okay. We're a glutton for punishment because of that, because we don't have a blueprint. There's no rule book about what this looks like, and it's always going to look different for everybody. But also embrace that. Embrace the process. Embrace the joy that comes from that. And pursue everything to your heart's desire. Try it all. I would say do not limit yourself to, any one thing. And don't put yourself in a box and don't allow anybody to put you in a box. And that goes back to staying true to yourself. If you can do that, I think you will be 10 steps ahead of everybody every single time, because you will have your own center of gravity within yourself that you will move according to that, and that will set you up for success. And then also I would just say, have fun. Have all the fun in the world. If you're pursuing this industry, there is so much going on at any given time.
Goodness.
And that can be overwhelming.
It can be. I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah.
Finding a lane. They just get the shiny objects.
Yes, exactly. And so I think, like you said, with the shiny object thing, take it for what it is, and just know that this is supposed to be fun. If you're pursuing your passion, find the joy in that and don't lose it. If you are losing it, regroup. Take a moment for yourself and say, all right, how do I need to pivot? Because a lot of people, whether it's this industry or any other industry, they get complacent. They get into a routine, they get into a job that they don't like, they get into a lot of different things that aren't to their benefit, and they live there for a really long time. Some people don't come out of it, and that's really, really hard. And honestly, my heart goes out to a lot of people for that, and I don't wish that on anybody.
Goodness. Yeah.
So I think, you know what I mean? It's a really hard place to be, and it's really hard to pull yourself out of that. No. I think we've all been in it at some point. And so I think it's important to maintain that sense of self and know that the best is yet to come, and to always be curious, have that curiosity for whatever that looks like, because without it, you're going to get burnt out. You're going to, like, there's no denying it, like whatever industry, but especially this one, because you're going at 120 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour at any given point.
And you're giving it your all, so you get burnt out even faster.
Exactly. So, always be curious, always maintain that playfulness, and don't take yourself too serious. Always be somebody who is willing to learn and stay humble within that. You should always be setting yourself up to be in spaces where you'll learn something, where you can be teachable. If you're the smartest person in the room, I've always been against that. I never want to be in a space where I'm the only one that is able to contribute anything to whatever it may be. I should always be somewhere where I'm going to learn something, you're going to learn something, we teach each other something, and it's collaborative in that way. And also within that, a lot of people have really big egos. This is that industry.
Yep.
People talk themselves out all the time, and they do a lot of things, and and honestly, to a certain extent, I get it, because it's a requirement in a way.
To a degree. But also remember who you are, and remember that there's always going to be somebody that can do it better than you. They could be prettier than you. They can be smarter than you. They can be more hardworking than you. They can be more talented. They can be any and everything, right? But there's only one you. So just maintain that. Know that in the back of your mind, and always only ever be in competition with yourself, but always be humble enough to know that you have to bring something to the table every time, every single time. Every time you walk into a space, know that you are walking into that space with purpose, and you are there to contribute something. And you should also be receiving something on the other side of that. And I think that will help you balance your ego, Yeah. I think it's super important. I think that is a really important piece of making your success in this industry. So that would be the advice. If I was talking to my niece right now, she loves creative things. That's what I would tell her. If a friend was asking for advice, that's what I would say. I say these things. I'm also saying them to myself when I say them, because I think it's important to speak those things into existence. Always be your own constant reminder, so that you have that perspective and you're maintaining it. Yeah. Okay. All right. A couple nuggets in there.
Yeah. I hope so.
So where can people find you? How do they connect with you?
Sure. You can connect with me. I'm predominantly on Instagram, so if you want to follow me at Nikki KB101, you can.
Okay.
2 Ks for the Nikki part. And then if you want to email me for any business inquiries, my link tree is on my Instagram, and you can find all the other additional links to my work and the things that I'm working on. I try to keep that up to date.
Mm-hmm. You do, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
So I welcome the opportunity to collaborate at any point, and I'm also really excited to connect with other people. So, yeah.
Hey, okay, good stuff. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Before we go, rapid fire question time. So these are just would you rather's. You just pick one or the other.
Okay.
For these. Okay, first question. Would you rather have the ability to perfectly memorize your lines or improvise brilliantly?
Improvise brilliantly.
Okay, that's a good choice. All right. Would you rather be famous for looks alone or your great acting skills?
Acting skills every time.
Okay. All right. Would you rather be stuck in a romantic comedy with your worst enemy or in a horror film with your best friend?
Horror film with my best friend.
Goodness. Okay. Poor best friend. Yeah. People generally die in those, so.
I love to scare her. I would love to do it. I can't wait.
I hear you. Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to talk to animals?
Ooh, that's so good.
Mm.
I think, oh man, that's so good.
Oh, is it?
I want to talk to animals. I just can't help it. I love animals.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I want to speak every language in the world, dude.
Yeah,
I
no.
want to talk to any person.
That would be amazing.
That would be so cool. Can I do both? I feel like if I'm speaking to animals, I'm talking every language because that's a language.
Yep, that's not really how it really works, though. Unfortunately, you have to either or. Animals, though. Animals, that's interesting choice. Okay. What you going to talk to a bear about?
All the trash men in the
All
world.
right. I'm picking language. All right. Would you rather be around negative loved ones or positive strangers?
Positive strangers.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Okay, perfect.